You want me to put that on my todger?
This one's wife. Worming her way back in. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We know that there's a huge rift between the Sussexes over there in Monty Shitshow and the royal family. This arose as a consequence of the behaviour of this one's wife and also Harry as he fell prey to the poison that was poured in his ear. This has meant that the Prince and Princess of Wales have had nothing to do with the Sussexes for quite some time, as a consequence of expert advice, and King Charles has had nothing to do with them either. However, it would appear that there has been a shift in relations. What is behind this? What's going on? Where might it lead to? Well, first of all, let's find out what this shift in relations happens to be. And it comes courtesy of Victoria Ward, who writes in the Telegraph newspaper, Prince Harry and King Charles share warm phone call that could be turning point in relations. The Duke of Sussex rang his father to wish him happy birthday, and there was a notable shift in tone. Thus, although Harry didn't attend the birthday celebrations, because either he wasn't invited or he was invited but said no, depending on who you believe, he did at least telephone, demonstrating that he cares about his father still, and, notwithstanding much of his poor behaviour, he still exhibits the empathic trait of decency to make this call to his father on the occasion of his 75th birthday. He does so driven by that empathic trait. But also, his handler will have encouraged and allowed him to make the call for reasons that I shall discuss in due course. Victoria Ward writes, the King's 75th birthday marked a turning point in relations with the Duke of Sussex, the Telegraph understands. Father and son enjoyed a warm conversation on Tuesday after Prince Harry, 39, called the King to wish him a happy birthday. After a lengthy spell during which the two have barely spoken, that of course being occasioned by Harry being under the control of his handler and Charles asserting control by remaining in a position of withdrawal, the chat marked a notable shift in tone, even ending with an agreement to speak again next week. The King also spoke on the phone with this one's wife, the Duchess of Sussex. Note, of course, that she has to get in on the action also. She can't be left out, and therefore she's looking to assert control over the King by speaking to him, and also asserting control over Harry by allowing him to make the call in the first place, and allowing her to manage the facade to demonstrate that she is a kind and decent person. Prince Archie, 4, and Princess Lilibet, 2, are understood to have recorded a video of themselves singing happy birthday to their grandfather, who they've only met on a handful of occasions, but which would have delighted him. Again, here, this one's wife is triangulating the King with his grandchildren in a benign act so that they sing happy birthday to him. It manages her facade to make her look good, and naturally the King will be pleased by it because it demonstrates the grandchildren are under control and it provides him with some fuel from them. The fact that both sides have signalled a desire to bury the hatchet and start to mend their relationship was hailed a positive sign that was celebrated on both sides of the Atlantic. As the King joined close friends for a birthday dinner at Clarence House on Tuesday night, he will undoubtedly have felt a weight lifted from his shoulders. Well, actually, he won't have done, but what it would have enabled him to do is talk about the fact that he received a call and received the video, which then would enable him to manage his own facade with his guests. The development comes as the death of Diana, Princess of Wales, and its devastating aftermath is laid bare in the new series of The Crown, released on Thursday. The first part of the final series thrusts the King and his sons into the spotlight as it examines the late princess's movements in her final weeks, dramatising both Prince William and Prince Harry's cherished final interactions with their mother. The Duke made clear in various interviews surrounding the publication of his memoir Spare in January that he wanted to reconcile with his father, again demonstrating the emotional empathy that he has for his father. He wrote warmly of his relationship with his pa and later said in a television interview that he would always love him. However, he insisted that he wanted an apology from his family before he could move on, insisting that the ball is in their court. This again demonstrates the narcissistic trait of defiance and resentment that Prince Harry has, which of course is exacerbated and worked upon by his handler, this one's wife. His position is thought to have baffled and angered senior members of the royal family in equal measure, many of whom felt deeply betrayed by the personal revelations he had made. Harry had hoped that by laying all of his cards on the table and laying bare his pain, he might jolt his family into contacting him and apologising for the perceived neglect. But such an apology never came. While the emotional distance from his son was said to cause him great pain, the king, who has never relished confrontation, chose instead to park the issue, assertion of control, by staying in a position of withdrawal, while he concentrated on matters of state. In an apparent retaliation for the barbs flying from California, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were asked to vacate their UK home, Frogmore Cottage, assertion of control by removal of benefit, just as Prince Harry's damning memoir was released. But the king was said to have been genuinely thrilled that his younger son flew over from California for his coronation in May. Indeed, aids the management of the facade and demonstrates that his son is under control. The pair had held peace talks about Prince Harry, before Prince Harry confirmed his plans to attend the ceremony, and the positive conversations were interpreted at the time as a significant step towards reconciliation. But since then, there has been little movement. Although the Duke made a subsequent visit to London in September, their respective diaries and work commitments meant the two were unable to meet up. There seemed to have been little improvement come Prince Harry's 39th birthday in mid-September, when relations were so strained that he didn't hear from his father or his brother, Charles asserting control by staying in a position of withdrawal, William maintaining a no-contact regime. Then in recent days, the Duke's office felt obliged to put out a formal correction after reports wrongly suggested he had been invited to the King's birthday dinner at Clarence House. In fact, they said there had been no contact regarding an invitation to His Majesty's birthday celebration, which was largely for close friends. The apparent dispute was considered by some to be a sign of the deep resentment between the two sides, but simply reflected a desire to correct the record. Today, those on both sides hope that instead Prince Harry's olive branch on the King's birthday marked a genuine turning point, offering an opportunity for both father and son to move forwards. Thus, Harry rings his dad, King Charles, pleased to receive the call. This one's wife gets in on the call as well. Archie and Lilibet make a video. So, what's going on? Is this one's wife looking to worm her way back into the royal family? Could it be the suggestions of financial hardship really are true, and that she's now looking to lay the groundwork for a return into the royal family? Could it be that this is all part of some grand scheme of hers to reconcile, to make herself look good, and to be welcomed back into the arms of the royal family, finding a role for them, receiving money, perhaps part of trying to engineer a part-time return? The short answer is no, it's not. Here's why. In part, this might just have been driven by Harry simply wanting to speak to his father because he's had enough of the rift, which has of course been generated largely by his wife. Harry loves his father and wanted to speak to him. It was his father's birthday, and therefore he snuck into the bedroom whilst this one's wife was sleeping and pulled out his balls from her handbag and made the call. So it could be as simple as that Harry wanted to make the call. But what about the involvement of this one's wife in the call? If Harry wanted to speak to his father and managed to do it, despite perhaps her protestations that, why should you speak to them, Harry, after everything they've done against us? And we need an apology before we actually speak to them. It may well be the case that Harry turned around and said, I can't be bothered with that aggravation. He's my dad. It's his birthday. I'm ringing him. And this one's wife had a tantrum, which he ignored. Or it may well be the case that because it was the king's birthday, that this one's wife saw an opportunity to make herself look good by saying to Harry, why don't you call your dad? I'll speak to him and let's get the kids to do a video also. Harry might find himself in a respite period, whereby she treats him well by allowing this phone call to take place and organising the creation of a video, because of course it allows her to control Harry by being kind to him, or at least giving the appearance of being kind, and at the same time allows her to assert control over Charles with a benign act, and then this is utilised to the world at large to say, look, we've made the first move, we've established contact again. Aren't we good? Aren't we kind? And it's all about managing the facade. It isn't part of a plan to worm her way back in for two reasons. One, her narcissism doesn't look that far ahead. As a mid-range narcissist, it deals with what's in front of her. And what was in front of her was the king's birthday and the necessity of doing something in relation to that when he came up on the radar. Her narcissism dictated that it was appropriate for Harry, her, and the children to provide something to the king because it benefited her. Secondly, the reason why it's not part of a master plan is that quite simply, the royal family, the UK, in terms of its populace and its media, are still viewed as far too hostile for this one's wife to yet return. That could change, but at this juncture, remember, she operates in the moment. She doesn't have a grand strategy, because if she did, she wouldn't be in the position that she's in, and she wouldn't make the schoolgirl errors that I've repeatedly pointed out to you. Thus, this was all about controlling Harry in the moment, controlling Charles in the moment, controlling the children in the moment, managing her facade, behaving in a benign fashion to make herself look good, but is not part of an overall campaign to worm her way back into the royal family. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.